Hello and welcome to Leadership Up Close. I'm Anne Lucas, the founder of 𝗟𝗃, and in each episode, I have a candid conversation with an impactful leader in Europe's tech landscape. They've got the t-shirt, they've got the scars, and they're here to share their insights and maybe even their secret sauce.
I have a sort of mantra, which is absorb complexity and transmit clarity. That's not easy. What worked really well for me is to apply what I had learned at eBay, the AAA approach, no? So A1, A2, A3. A1 stands for acquisition, A2 for activation, A3 for activity. When we created from scratch a food delivery leader in Spain in less than 3 years, that was really magic. And one of my favorite tasks was to consult our account managers, our customer care agents, to get their opinions, because they were the ones talking every day to consumers and merchants.
If you had to give some advice to your younger self, what would that be?
I would say, Jérôme, be natural, believe in yourself, stop chasing reassurance, and go and lead.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Leadership Up Close. I'm really excited today. I am joined by Jérôme Gavin. So Jérôme is an expert in marketplaces. He has spent the last 15 years at Just Eat Takeaway, starting in 2010 after eBay. Is that right, Jérôme?
It is correct.
And as employee number one in Spain, leading the growth in Spain, and literally from there, leading the international expansion into growth markets like Brazil, Mexico, India, and then literally leading the international expansion into Europe, LATAM, APAC, everything from high growth, startup, M&A, IPO, post-IPO transformation, and manage thousands of people through high velocity growth. So I'm really excited to have you on Leadership Up Close today. I'll let you introduce yourself before we deep dive, but today's topic is going to be how we lead from startup into global scale, and we'll deep dive into those leadership lessons.
Yeah, so thank you, Anne, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Jérôme Gavin. I'm 51 years old, father of two. I define myself as a citizen of the world. I'm based today in Madrid, in the sunny Madrid, in Spain, but I've been living in France, UK, the US. Indeed, as you said, I have a large and rich trajectory at both eBay and Just Eat Takeaway. I define myself as a mix of entrepreneur and a C-suite leader with 25 plus years of experience in scaling digital platforms and leading teams across the world. And I'm very happy to be here with you today, and I hope we're gonna share a lot together.
I'm sure we will. So you've led through high growth, market launches, joint ventures, global transformation, as we said, from Spain, Europe, LATAM. Before we unpack the stories, I'd love to start with what it feels like to lead in that kind of environment. You know, the pace, the ambiguity, the pressure to decide fast. And I'm sure it varies from one market to another. What is it like on the inside when growth takes off?
So when growth takes off, it's an amazing feeling because you can feel three things, basically. Well, you can feel way more, but I can remember three, no? The energy across the organization, and it's contagious. The motivation of the teams, and this unique feeling that the mission, the vision of your company starts to materialize as you bring an answer to a market with several problems to solve.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about the early lessons from building Just Eat in Spain from scratch. And, 2010 was very different to, where we are today in 2025. We've seen many startups take off. But when we go back to 2010, what was it like to scale, culture? So not just numbers, but you're scaling a business in one market. What was that like?
Yeah, so I really like the question because numbers and good numbers indeed matter. And it's an obsession for startups at the beginning. But good numbers cannot be achieved without the right culture, and culture and how you scale it is a function of first having a clear mission, a clear vision, a purpose, and a set of values. As a leader, you must set the direction of travel, the North Star. People strive for that way more than just for EBITDA. They want to be part of something. They want to know the direction of travel. And second, I believe that you need to develop a leadership doctrine that is principles-based as opposed to rules-based. You need to foster experimental agility, A/B testing, as opposed to the traditional command and control organization, especially at the beginning when you're a startup.
But how do you make decisions, under pressure when information is limited or not perfect and time is short?
So I have a sort of mantra, which is absorb complexity and transmit clarity. That's not easy. Yeah? As a leader, you need to you must make an effort of simplifying things for your team in order to embark them, because without a motivated team, but a team who understands the why and the what of what we are doing, we won't achieve anything. And what helps you as a leader to absorb complexity and transmit clarity is not losing sight of what we are trying to achieve long term. What are the goals we set in the first place? Of course, the goals can evolve over time, and they have to. But at the very moment, only by coming back to those principles, you can make the best, although sometimes imperfect, decision. And in any case, a decision and action is better than not doing anything.
That's really interesting, actually, because I was working on a CEO search a few months ago, and the discussion I had with the board and the private equity firm was very much around, finding people who can take operational risks. What's your kind of what are your thoughts on taking risk, whether it's commercial, operational, or people risk? From that journey that you've had of high growth and transformation, how do you approach risk taking?
So it's a mix, because you need to balance risk and opportunities. I would answer with one simple word: focus. You need to stay focused, especially in the early years, because you can quickly start doing 100 things and lose your soul and lose your path. So for me, it's all about focus, and I want to link with the previous question where you need to be very clear on what you're trying to achieve. You need to be very clear on the problem that your company is solving, the purpose, and the goals you set in the first place. But be very careful of going all over the place. You can really lose your soul and what your company is striving for.
Okay, and just go a little bit deeper on that, if you don't mind. So, how is that leadership intuition, or is that, well, how much of that leadership intuition versus data? At what point do you feel you can go off course and then come back? And at one point do you find yourself, you've gone off course, but you've lost yourself, you've lost your way?
It's the typical question between being super data driven and the gut, no, and just execute with your gut feeling. I mean, it's very personal, this one, but based on my experience, it's a little bit 80-20. You need to be really data driven and keep asking several times why to go deep into the data. But at some point, you're just yourself in front of the mirror with the decision to be made, and here, this is where the intuition, the experience, the gut feeling comes into play. So for me, it's a little bit 80-20, right? Not everything can be only data driven, but frankly, it helps a lot to take then the decision with your gut.
And I suppose you're not completely alone in that decision. You have the sounding board of other leaders and peers and within the organization. I mean, Just Eat, you must have had a group of senior leaders and the exco as well to help you in those decisions, or
No, correct.
Or how much did you feel alone in those decisions? Maybe that is a question.
No, correct. And especially myself, I'm a big team player, and I like to have a participative management. So I really like to debate, to ask questions, to get some informed opinions. But very often, as the top leader in the room, you are the one who needs to make the final call. Huh? And at that moment, you're the one who must decide. But no, I like to have a debate, healthy debate, with a goal. And for that, I consult a lot, of course, my team, but I will go further. I also like to consult everyone in the organization. So, for instance, a group I really like to consult are the customer care agents, because every day they are in the front line, and every day they deal way more than you and I with the consumers, the partners, all the different agents interacting with your company, and their feedback is very, very valuable.
Any moments where you've had to take a bold call that define the trajectory of the business? I mean, benefit of hindsight is great, but is there a moment that you can really sort of, looking back, you feel that was a bold decision and that actually really defined the trajectory of the business?
Yes, let's travel back, I would say 10 years ago, during the years, 2014, 2015, 2016. We made at the time 3 big decisions. The first one was to move aggressively towards being a mobile first company. The second one was to, so it's a good link with what we just said, no? To be really data driven. So we scaled and professionalized our business intelligence, data and analytics department. And the third one was a pivot, right? It was a big change. We changed our business model, and we added logistics to our marketplace only business, and we did well. And then those 3 decisions helped us acquire and activate more users and compete at scale with the new entrants.
Okay. So if I go back to Spain, you were employee number 1. What was that like, in terms of, was there a playbook that you applied? Were the turning points that shaped the business and your leadership in that very early stage, the sort of the high growth, the startup in Spain?
Yeah. So first of all, building Just Eat Spain from scratch was fascinating, and I wish to all the people who are listening to us right now to have the chance to go through such a rewarding experience. And it was I think it was a success because we disrupted the market by creating new consumer habits. We all of a sudden offered way more choice and convenience by bringing a really good product to consumers, but also a product that enabled the merchants, the restaurants in that case, to acquire more consumers and make more money. And something very nice too, because you have to think back in 2010s, the unemployment rate in Spain was quite high, and it was really, really rewarding to be able to offer a job to people and put a smile on their face. No, in terms of you mentioned playbook, so in terms of what I think shaped both the business and my leadership, what worked really well for me is to apply what I had learned at eBay. As I said, I worked at eBay when it was the golden age of eBay between 2004 and 2010. And I learned the famous, that's why I imported that to Just Eat Takeaway, the AAA approach, no? So A1, A2, A3. A1 stands for acquisition, A2 for activation, A3 for activity. And I especially like within it the famous supply drives the demand. So that was for the executional part. And on the leadership part, the value of over communicating, keeping it human, practice judgment. This one I really like, but win the hearts and the minds of the people who are working with you. And this, of course, requires some EQ, emotional intelligence beyond just the academical one.
Interesting. And just to go a little bit deeper on that, were there any particular functional leaders who helped that growth? You mentioned maybe marketing. Was that part of it, or whether maybe it was on the product side? What were the sort of the key functions that enabled the high growth in that market?
Definitely sales in our case, because as I said, no, supply drives the demand. Therefore, when you are at the beginning of the story, you need to create liquidity in your marketplace. So you need to acquire a lot of supply. Without the supply, you cannot even start the marketing part. No, so it was definitely the supply phase one. Once we had a decent selection, then we started to spend more money in marketing, and I would add the quality of the team, of course, and I was very lucky to be joined by very talented people.
And how Spain was, what, 3 years?
So I led Spain for 3 years. Then I got promoted to regional and international role, but it was 2010, 2013,
Okay.
2014.
And so from Spain to then Brazil, because of course that was kind of the platform, le tremplin, right, as we say in French, the platform, for the high growth, and it makes sense. You go from Spain into sort of LATAM. And of course in LATAM it was, in Brazil specifically, it was a different business model. It was through a joint venture, is that right, with
Yeah.
iFood, which became a real regional powerhouse. What made that partnership really work?
So you're right, Anne, in saying that iFood was a big success and a big regional powerhouse. It's actually today one of the 3 unicorns in LATAM. It did not happen overnight. It took us several years. And today iFood, which is the joint venture we created between Just Eat and Naspers, iFood today represents 0.43% of the Brazilian GDP. So it's a titan. What made that partnership work? I think we can proudly say that 1 + 1 = 11. Both parties of the organization brought the best of what they had, especially in terms of operational execution and financial allocation. Myself, personally, on the operational part, I made a lot of efforts as a board member for 9 years to encourage knowledge transfer, best practice sharing, remove, sometimes the vanity metrics you're looking at, and defend bold moves and foster innovation. So yeah, I think we all learned a lot during the journey. The shareholders, the operators in Brazil, and frankly, very proud of the success we achieved as a global team.
And of course, as a European, as you said, you're French, you've been living in Spain for a long time, you've led international expansion, leading across such a diverse, cultural and sort of market realities, Europe, LATAM, APAC. What are the sort of the key learnings from that? When you look back, what do you think defines a leader who can easily navigate from the different regional markets?
Yeah. So first on the differences between Europe, LATAM, APAC. So maybe I'm going to surprise people here, but yes, there are differences, local differences, of course, but definitely also a lot of similarities. At the end of the day, the customers, no matter if they are in Tel Aviv, in Sydney, in Toronto, in Madrid, in Sao Paulo, they want choice, convenience, fast delivery, and good prices. And this does not change whether you are in a city or another. Financially speaking, no matter where you are, the company eventually needs to achieve sustainable growth. So just all for growth or all for profit, it doesn't work. And we've been able to observe and confirm that over the last years. What maybe I would highlight as a big difference is the energy and the speed of adoption in young countries like Brazil, Mexico, and India. here, on that 2 points, I can see a difference. And what impressed me the most was the energy you could feel in the streets early in the morning when I was getting there. It was still dark, or when I was starting my day with the sales reps. And then the speed of adoption. So for instance, when we launched our app in Brazil, all of a sudden we connected the whole middle class, literally millions of users with our app.
No, it's really interesting, the idea that we are global customers and defining, I guess, the synergies across the different markets. And then if we talk about the transformations, the stages that you've been through, because you've lived through the pre-IPO momentum, the IPO itself, and the shift to profitable growth, what changes at each stage?
This one is an interesting question, and unfortunately, we are not. I think we're not all equal here. Not all employees can adapt to those changes. No, pre-IPO and IPO itself demands a lot of rigor and acceptance to new rules, new processes. As a consequence, as a senior leader, you therefore need to create the space for your team. So to adapt to that, no? So we can still execute at pace, remain agile, while we adhere to compulsory new methods of reporting and new short-term constraints imposed by the stock exchange. People-wise, it's also the moment for you as a leader when and where you must create the right balance between adding new skills and capabilities to your team, and at the same time, not forgetting about your existing employees and promoting them, growing them. No, for me, it's a little bit like each stage is a little bit like a marathon made of of little sprints, I would say.
And so how do you do that, in the sense of, I think it's one thing as a leader being able to lead through high growth to then having the IPO pressure and the short-term financial reporting that comes from being a listed business. But how do you then make sure that your team is also able to adapt to that? Because I suspect some people will have the right DNA and the right agility to adapt to that, and others not. Does that change how you communicate and the kind of leadership that you apply in your teams?
Yes, of course. Yes, definitely. And in order to be able to navigate that and to be concrete, what helps you make the right decision, in my opinion, is feedback, or what we called customer closeness. So your ability to listen to what your consumers and partners are saying. You must make the time to talk to them and to visit them. And I would add what I said 5 minutes ago, talking also to your frontline employees. And one of my favorite tasks was to consult our account managers, our customer care agents, to get their opinions, because they were the ones talking every day to consumers and merchants. By doing that, you and the teams, you escape from your day-to-day, you escape from any ivory tower, and it helps you stay humble and connected to the reality of your business, and therefore it helps you make good decisions.
Okay. And is there, I'm going off tangent a little bit here, but are there any examples of, maybe not, but looking back, are there any times where you felt an initiative we could have done when we weren't a listed business, we can no longer do because we are a listed business and we've got short-term pressure? Did that happen at all?
Yeah, it happened. It happened a lot with some product and tech features that we couldn't launch immediately because it would require first a lot of time to implement and also a lot of time to test if it was a good idea or not. So when we were stock listed, we always had to technically build for the long term while adapting to immediate constraint we had that could make us deviate from the long-term vision we had in product and tech. And when you are stock listed and you have to report every 3-6 months, of course, it does influence a lot some product and tech decision you will make. Nonetheless, it's very important that you keep building for the long term, especially when you have a tech debt, right? Because you've been acquiring several different companies. When you're not stock listed, it's different because actually you can test many things. You can put very small teams on the side with a little budget. They will execute, test. If it doesn't work, you stop, and that's it. When you're stock listed, the way you use the money and the investments you make, it's a different game.
It's a different game. And what's the what would you say is the hardest trade-off you've had to make between growth and profitability?
You always have to make trade-off, especially when you're stock listed. But you're right. But I like to see it from a different angle, no? And I like to see it as a chance. It's an opportunity to stop doing things that no longer make sense. So it does enforce you to make the change and to take the action. But here my recommendation is also to go after the big ticket items. Do not try to save on, I don't know, on very little things or stupid things that actually will not move the needle, or will disappoint also, or will affect the motivation of your employees. No, you need to go after the big ticket items, and always for the sake of growth. So I like to say, save to invest. Just upskilling doesn't work. It actually creates the condition to failure. If you save money, send some of that money to the bottom line. Yes, indeed, but invest a big part of this money to growth, to the top line. Growth solves everything. Growth is a function. Growth as a function of acquisition and activation of the supply and demand will drive profits.
Profitability. Okay, interesting. Yeah. And I always think that when you're in a company that's disrupting a market, that's innovating, Just Eat was exactly that. From 2010 through the stages of growth, and there's a lot of conversations I've been having, as part of this interview sessions, is around how do you create a culture that enables teams people feeling comfortable taking risks, and sometimes, of course, taking risks also means failing fast. Means what's the cost of a mistake? What are the sort of the rails that we need to put in place to make sure that people are comfortable taking risks, but as a business we're also comfortable that the mistakes are not too costly to the business. How did you approach that from a leadership perspective?
No, absolutely. And based on my experience, in order to create the space, the license for risk and failing fast, it's three things, I would say. No, first, you must develop, as I said before, a leadership doctrine that is principles based and not rules based. You need to foster experimental agility, a culture of A/B testing, as opposed to the traditional command and control organization where people are afraid of just moving one little things. Second, you need to implement a culture of feedback for the good and the bad. Sorry, feedback is a gift. Regular one-on-ones, team meetings, but really a culture of feedback where you can frankly debrief on the action we took or on the decision we are about to take, but feedback is essential. And last but not least, having fun, celebrating success, rewarding a culture of trial and error, and often also refer to the mission and the vision and the values of the company. You need, make it tangible. Refer to every time you have a conversation or as often as possible, refer also to the values of the company, of the mission and the vision. So it's not only a couple of words on paper, but it's also very tangible.
Okay, interesting. And looking back over 15 years, more really, because it's not just seed, but you've got all the experience before that, as you mentioned, eBay as well for a number of years, 6+ years. What's a leadership moment you're proudest of, and one that taught you humility?
Yeah, it's a good one. Huh? So I would like to give you maybe 3, if I may.
Sure.
Of course, the first one is of course the success of Just Eat Spain. No, when we created from scratch a food delivery leader in Spain in less than 3 years, that was really magic. The second one, and this I can apply this both at eBay and Just Eat Takeaway, but especially Just Eat Takeaway. The second one for me is the value that me and the teams we created. We really achieved, so because I've managed up to 20+ markets across the world, and me and the teams, we created for the company big numbers, billions of euros in terms of GTV, billions of euros in terms of revenues, hundreds of millions of EBITDA for the company and for the ecosystem, right? For the industry in general. And the third one, both at eBay and Just Eat Takeaway, is how I've managed to recruit, to appoint, and to develop high-performing country management teams. I'm really proud of that, and of course, you never succeed alone. You also succeed as a team. So to those who are listening to us, a big thank you to them. And the moment that taught me humility, and for sure, I hope I will never make that mistake again. I was arrogant with a competitor. So I'm by no means arrogant, but this time I was. And it's when I was in charge of Europe at Just Eat Takeaway, and by lack of humility, I misjudged a competitor's move, a strong commercial agreement they made with a big chain. At the time, I saw it as a massive P&L mistake, instead of understanding that it was a smart marketing investment, a smart channel of acquisition of new users, no? And it took us years to catch up.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I think that's actually that's really big of you to well, as you said, the benefit of hindsight is great. At the time, also what made sense, maybe what makes sense today didn't make sense at the time. But it's learning from mistakes. I mean, that's definitely a theme that's recurring through these conversations, because nothing is perfect, and you do have to push boundaries a little bit, and at times getting things wrong. But as you said, learning from that is the key, and the culture of feedback in the teams as well. And of course, we've talked about you as a leader, leading high growth, very much the operational leadership, but of course, you've also been navigating across shareholder dynamics. What did you learn from navigating across shareholder dynamics at Just Eat Takeaway?
Yes, I learned the importance of being aligned. Alignment on the long-term vision, and concretely, what you're trying to achieve. Where do you want to be in 5-10 years? The risk in a JV, for instance, is that you have one shareholder who's building for the long term, another one who's looking to maximize profits short term, another one who's wanting to diversify instead of consolidating the core, etc., etc. So between Naspers and Just Eat, we were not always in agreement with regards to the level of investments, for instance, but we always had healthy debates, healthy disagreements. But for sure, we all had the same big ambitions of creating in LATAM a very serious business, addressing the needs for food delivery first and then local commerce, and just win. And I think we did a very good job. iFood is a beautiful company today, and one of the titans in LATAM.
Fantastic. And of course, adapting from being a C-suite leader, hands on all the levers, being in the driving seats, driving growth, profitability, moving from that to being in a boardroom requires a little bit of adaptation, bit of a transition. Of course, you've already got the experience of iFood, being on the board of iFood. How have you approached that transition from at this stage in your career where I'm sure you're getting opportunities to be on boards of companies as well as being in operational roles, and you have the luxury of maybe doing both or one or the other. But clearly it's a point where you need to transition from hands-on operational leadership to something that's more sort of a board and governance role.
Yeah, so it's a very good one because um, I quickly understood that I could no longer be the best operator in the room, the super country manager, and that my role had changed, and I had to become more strategic.
Mm-hmm.
I had to set a direction. I had to become someone who's the guardian of the mission, the vision and the values, to be someone to act as a capability and as a capability builder,
Mm-hmm.
um, and 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 help, listen to people, over communicate, and instill a certain sense of urgency, but 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 not doing. Stop doing.
Mm,
You become a different agent of change.
mm.
You're here to facilitate and help.
It's interesting, actually. I was at an event last night at BPI France. They were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm going a little bit off at a sort of tangent here, but they were talking about the role of operating partner. But in a way, it links to helping founders, helping leaders get to achieve the best for their business. And the image that somebody used to summarize it was, if you think of climbing Everest, if you've got the founders who are sort of geared up to go to the top of the mountain, the investors are base camp, and the operating partner, or in your case, being on the board, is kind of the Sherpa who's been there, done it, knows the right path, knows how to get there. Um, I mean, I thought that was quite a good image, but as you said, it takes a little bit of a different kind of posture to having seen what the mistakes to make and not to make. But clearly, you're not in a driving seat anymore. You're there to enable, as you said, a capability builder. And you've led across different. I mean, I think you've got a fantastic background to do this, because you also led through different stages of growth, different markets, different regions, through integrating large acquisitions,
Mhm. Yeah.
so mergers and acquisitions, which again is a different skill set. Growing a market organically and growing via bolt-on acquisitions or mergers is a very different skill set. I wish we had more time to talk about all of this,
And
but
it also helps you, having been there,
mm,
helps you to become more strategic
mm,
as well. Because we often talk about the intuition, but I think intuition is also as a consequence of experience.
hmm
Have good intuitions if you experience it before. So it helped me to become more strategic when I moved from the seat of being an operator, a country manager, to a
mm.
regional or international leader, or being in those boardrooms that you mentioned.
Yes, I guess you have a better ability to anticipate how the market is behaving, how the organization is fit for purpose, fit to adapt to the changes in the market and the environment. Um, If you had to sum up, based on everything you've been through, if you had to sum up leadership today, so I mean, starting a business like a marketplace business in 2025, I'm sure would be very different to when you were starting Justice in 2010. So if you had to sum up leadership today in one word, what would that be?
Oh, I hope it would be empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy at the service of creating a team dynamic, and as I said, what was key at the beginning of some of the markets we launched was the energy and the motivation and the good vibe. People were really happy to come to work, and and I think the leaders we were at the time, we were able to show a lot of empathy with the rest of the members.
And I'd like to think that we're still learning even after 20, 25 years of experience. For you, what's the most surprising thing you've learned in the last 12 months?
So in the last 12 months, more than a learning, it's a lesson.
Okay.
Pay attention to the people you deal with, employees, partners, competitors, and how you treat them. The world is really small, and positions of strength and weaknesses can change very rapidly. So always treat people with respect, be frank, be professional. But yes, it's crazy how things, status quo, can change actually very rapidly overnight.
And if you, I mean, again, hindsight is a wonderful thing. If you had to give some advice to your younger self, what would that be?
I would love to do that, yeah. But if I could, I would say, Jérôme, be natural, believe in yourself, stop chasing reassurance, and go and lead.
Perfect. And you and I both have children who are, I know it's a big birthday today for one of your children, and
Absolutely.
as a happy birthday. But also, I have children also, young adults will soon be into the place of work. In practice, what does that mean? Be yourself, be natural. What are the kind of the compass that you need to have, or the alarm bells you need to have when you are 18, 20, 22, or about to step into the world of work? Do you have any advice for your son today?
Yeah, I would say to my son today, who's gonna be 18 years old, so it's very young. But I would and I will tell him to test, to try, to really get involved, be open to what the world can offer to him right now. You have time. You can make mistake. There's no problem. You can always reverse. And yes, indeed. I mean, believe in yourself. Believe in your in the skills you have today, and you will get more skills. And also, don't make a big deal of the mistakes. You know what the Nelson Mandela says, no? I never lose. I win or I learn. And
That's true.
and so this is the case. So the mistake will help you be better in the next years.
And for you, is there a decision that changed your path?
Yeah, but yes, if we stay on the professional part, there was one. After my studies, I started in consulting. So I was maybe 20, 24, 25, and that was not the right move. That was not the right time. So I started in consulting. I didn't like it. So I stayed 8 months, and I quickly came back to my first love, and joined an internet startup in France. And since then, I've always worked in a tech environment, and that was the right decision.
Okay. Now, in a slightly more fun way, if I don't know if you're a music fan, but if leadership had a soundtrack, what song would be on yours?
So I like sports, and I like what they sing in the Liverpool Stadium. You will never walk alone. I think it's
Okay.
it's nice, and in the context of a company, this team spirit, the fact that you can rely on your colleagues, it's a nice feeling.
Team spirit, as you said, you're never alone, particularly in a startup environment, growing international. You're never alone in the situation. Having that sounding board, as you said earlier, I think is key. And you'll go to reset when things get a bit too intense. What does that look like in your life?
Yeah, so in my case, the family, of course. Sports helps as well, and also more and more now, since I have a motorboat license, I like to rent.
That's it, fun.
Yeah, I like to rent, a small boat and navigate. So unfortunately, I'm based in Madrid today, so there's no sea, but we have some lakes.
But
during the summer, I like to go and navigate.
Take the pressure off.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Now, as a headhunter, when I look at your profile, which I think is super impressive.
Thank you.
If I didn't know you, if we didn't have the conversation, if I just had the profile in front of me, I'd think, what would Jérôme like to do today? Because you could go into lots of different directions. It could be highly operational. It could be something that's very scaled. It could be a listed business. It could be back into a startup. It could be board opportunities. What are we going to see? What direction do you think you might take over the next 12, 24 months?
I like to keep all the options open at the moment, and yes, indeed, I'm exploring the next professional chapter, and it can go both ways, no? An executive role, a C-suite role. I don't really care about the size of the company. I feel at ease at any stage. And the second avenue, in parallel or as a complement, a non-executive director role, a board member, board advisor. I'm also open to mandates as an operating partner, because I feel that I feel privileged. Over the last 25 years, I've learned a lot in terms of marketplaces, classifieds, SaaS dynamics. I've learned a lot at opening up new markets, managing small and big P&Ls, managing small and big teams. So yeah, yes, I feel I have a lot to give as an experienced C-suite leader and an expert of marketplaces, classifieds, and SaaS companies.
I think it's a really exciting time for you. And as you said, you could easily be doing both. You could have a scale business as sort of your full-time exec role. You could have something that's more startup entrepreneurial with a whole different set of challenges as an operating partner or board member. You could be doing both, but I'm really excited for you, and I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing next. I hope I can play a part in that, Jérôme, to help you find the next chapter. I'd love to have the conversation in 5 years where you'll be saying, and it was great. We chatted, and the opportunities came, and it was the next pivot, the next chapter for you. I hope I can be the person that brings you that. But let's see what happens. Let's see what 2026 brings us. But you know what? I think there'll be some AI in whatever we do, whatever business we go into. So
sure.
If you haven't yet, you might want to do a deep dive course into AI and how to apply it into practice, into a marketplace business. But I'm sure you've already done a lot of that.
I've done a couple of AI courses already. Yes, it was good. Now I have a methodology, to interact with AI and get the most of it.
Okay. Well, Jérôme, thank you so much for taking part in this. I really enjoyed the conversation. And as I said, can't wait to see what the next chapter will be for you.
Likewise, thank you very much, Anne. It was a pleasure.